that. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for joining me. Loving that sofa in the background.
Oh,
Looking good.
thank you. Yeah, that's like one of the things I've treated myself to, and I'm just like, I don't really know why it's there now because I never sit on it, because in my mind I'm like, I don't want to ruin it, because every time I sit on it, it like gets like a mark from like my jeans or like something, so I'm just like, why did I do this to myself?
Wow. So it's music worldwide FM. I'm joined by the amazing, she's killing it right now. Celeste is here. It's a pleasure. Let's talk about LA real quick. I know you was born there and it was pretty brief. And then you grew up in Brighton. Tell us about that, because I love LA. That was the last place I visited before the lockdown.
Really?
Tell us about the whole California swag and that DNA, the spirit of LA. Is that vibe in you, like for life, really? What's like a day in a hangout day for you in LA, and what's a studio vibe day like for you in LA? Tell us about your whole LA DNA. Is it still there?
I think it must be somewhere. It's like you said, I lived there only till I was like 1.5. So my memory of it from a child like is non-existent. But I started going there when I was like 16, and I sort of hung out with some family, and then I went back properly again when I was like 20 something to start going in the studio and stuff. And I guess like I know why my mom was drawn to it now in like visiting it as an adult and like knowing her personality. And I guess that's kind of like, there's a lot of like intense spirituality going on there. There's a lot of like counterfeit spirituality, but there's definitely a lot of like the real stuff
Yeah.
going on. And my mom's really like that. So I think that I sort of feel that in the people and like the ones that it feels authentic in when I go there. But it's funny because I always say like when you get to LA, there's something in the air which just is so lazy and it makes you so relaxed and everything goes slower.
Ah,
But like I kind of enjoy
I
it.
feel you.
I think it's just the nature of how like the whole place is set out, and there's so much space in between everything, like physically and like in time as well. If you want to drive somewhere, it might take an hour, and in that hour, like it takes you to get to the studio or whatever, you have so much more time to like process your thoughts before you get there. Whereas like when I'm in London, I'm like, oh, I've got to be there in 10 minutes, or I like leave when I'm meant to be there, and then I haven't even had a moment to like think before I get there.
Wow, amazing, amazing. And Aretha Franklin, one of your inspirations.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought I was looking for a couple of old vinyls, but this Aretha one particularly I couldn't find. But
Yeah.
there's this little vinyl. It's called "This Is Soul."
Oh
Yeah,
wow, with like the puzzle thing. That's amazing. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like there's a record on it called "I Never Loved Them. I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You."
That's one of my favorite Aretha Franklin songs.
Wow, I gotta get this vinyl to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, because it starts out with that you're no good heartbreaker. And the way her voice is on that first line is just insane. Like I'm gonna listen to it now actually when I go off this, because now you put it in my head. But yeah, it's one of my favorite like vocal performances of hers.
Wow, that's amazing to know and share that moment with you there. That's amazing. Big fan of Aretha myself. I love my soul music. I love it. And I'm really thankful for you coming in the game right now. I think it's a pivotal time for you in what you're doing with your career.
Oh,
And I think you're going to have an amazing one. So keep pushing. What kind of record would you do with Aretha if she was alive? What kind of record would it be? Would it have been?
I'd want it to sound like those old school Aretha songs with all the backing vocalists on them, the sort of howling and like the sort of like harrowing love stories, and like I would love to do that. I think I think she wrote a lot of those songs with Carole King,
Yeah.
and Carole King's still alive, and I'd love to write with her. But yeah, if we were gonna do something, I think we'd have to like it would be all three of us get together and write something. That would be amazing. Um, yeah.
Amazing. How would you say, I know you're a big fan of hip hop. How would you say hip hop has
Mm,
influenced your whole style and your music going, at this current climate? Tell us about your hip hop influence. I know you're a big fan of Kendrick Lamar, also.
mm.
So just tell us about your hip hop influence.
Well, I think that like growing up, the music that I was exposed to was like jazz, soul, like funk, blues. And that was like the music I was like taught was good kind of thing. And I guess what I was sort of hearing in the mainstream wasn't really running parallel to those ideas of like what I thought good music was. And so I guess like hip hop was the first time I came into contact with something that felt like it was sitting in the same lane in the same world of like some of that stuff I'd grown up with, like even rock and roll and punk. But I guess like the music that had like real purity to it and like real authenticity to it. And so when I first started hearing people like Kendrick, well, that was later, but even like growing up and like hearing Kanye West and like Tyler the Creator, it really like showed me like these people were being true to like where they were from, the stories and like the narrative that they understood. And they were just like, they just had like an urgency to express themselves. And there was no like sort of manipulating it for like the idea like the masses will listen to this. They just like had to say something, and they had no choice but to like get it out. And like music was the way that it sort of came across. And so something else I found in hip hop and like modern music in that genre was that like I found people like Kanye West and Kendrick were interpreting those genres that was familiar with, like soul and jazz and funk and blues, but they were kind of like making their own version of it and like reinventing a language within something that already existed them. And at first it was just as simple as like hearing like the Ray Charles sample on Gold Digger, or hearing like the Isley Brothers on Kendrick Lamar, like on that song I. And so eventually I came to understand that they had like quite a lot of clarity in like how they transposed music that like pre-existed them into like the modern day. So I kind of began to like study what they were doing in a sense, as well as just like enjoying listening to it to understand like how they did that. And I guess it's just like within them, and it's just in their DNA, like it's the stuff that their parents probably played them growing up, so it's just there and it lives within them and it exists within them. But I guess it was just like the only music in the mainstream that really like spoke to me, and I could actually like really enjoy it. Like still to this day, I guess what's sort of classified as pop I don't really listen to, but like hip hop, which is pop in a sense, because it's like I guess one of the genres that sort of like exceeds like commercially what like the other sort of pop music can do within that world. But it's the only real like pop music that I could really like get to grips with like sonically, and I guess like in the stories that they were telling and like the language they were using, and it just felt real to me kind of thing.
Wow, and I really hope to see a collaboration of you and Kendrick Lamar one day, man. Maybe you've already done it. Who knows?
Well, but yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. I also think your vibe would suit well with a Nas.
I
You
love
know,
Nas.
I would love to hear you on a record of Nas.
Yeah, I would love that. I mean, like, I remember an Amy Winehouse did that song with Nas like a long, long time ago, and I loved that at the time. And he's done so many cool things. And you know, like the recent album that had that like crazy beat that was like "The Cop Shot the Kid," that song,
Oh,
that
Garcia.
yeah, that beat is so good. Like, yeah, I
Yeah, the
think
sampling.
Kanye made that maybe, but yeah,
Yeah, I think Kanye produced the whole album actually,
really,
about
yeah,
six, seven of the records.
but
Yeah,
yeah, I love
yeah,
that.
amazing. And I Am Not Your Muse, I'm loving the brand new album.
Thank you.
I believe it was a number one album in the UK.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. A couple of my standout records I've been loving and I've been really deep in, and I want to just quickly get some lyric checks on those are Tell Me Something I Don't Know.
Yeah.
I really love you say, have you ever wondered why some people live, some people die?
Mm,
When I hear that lyric, I naturally think like, um, why was it like, why was why did that person that passed away that I knew, why did he pass away?
mm,
And why am I still here?
mm.
So that's what I thought when I heard that lyric, and I was like, wow, what does she mean by that? So what do you mean by that bit? That's what I thought when I heard it.
Yeah, it definitely comes from that thought that I've had within myself in like sort of like experiencing like people like passing around me and stuff. But I guess what really like was the catalyst for that line was like the sense of like injustice like in the world that we face, like, and in society, I guess, especially like having had some experience in America and like my dad living in America and like passing away as a result of like the health system not really like serving him very well, that like there was lots of things that I was looking at in this song, I guess, in like living in poverty, like how that can affect your trajectory or like your lifeline, and like thinking about that. And I guess feeling frustrated, like at the time I actually wrote that song sort of like post like the Conservative government coming into power here in the UK, and like I just felt really disheartened by it, and I felt a sense of frustration that like people growing up in the same sort of circumstance that I grew up in maybe won't have a chance again. And like I found that just to be such a setback when it felt like we'd come quite far in society in kind of like creating more opportunities for people from all different types of backgrounds. And I guess like, yeah, I felt like there was a setback there somewhere in the psyche of like the British public. There's sort of like somewhere there was like a frustration coming out, which eventually it felt like it wouldn't lead to like serve the people who really needed that help very well. And so that's kind of where that song came from. And I guess it's kind of like one foot is like here in Britain and like some of the injustice that I think we face here, and like one foot in America where like I mentioned like my dad was living there and he fell really ill, and his insurance like basically it took so long for them to tell him what his insurance policy covered that in that time he became so ill that he passed away. So I think that like it then became a question to me, is like, if you're rich, do you get to live? And if you're poor, do you die? Kind of thing. And so like that was definitely like one of the themes and questions like in that opening line of that song, because it's just something that's always twirling around within me, and like I'm seeing it in the streets, and I'm seeing like this sort of disparity and this like massive space growing again in between like the rich and the poor. Like, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, that was a very deep record, and you had some big records on there tonight, which I also loved. Then Love Is
Oh,
Back, your new single. But I want to know, is love really back though, Celeste? You know, Valentine's has just come. Well, is Celeste got a Valentine's? I know, Celeste. Talk to the people. Do you have a Valentine's, or did you have a Valentine?
yeah, I do actually have a Valentine's now. Actually, it was like my first proper Valentine's Day with a boyfriend, so that was like
Oh,
nice. Yeah. But I think initially when I wrote this song, it was kind of like in the irony of like seeing someone, thinking you're falling head over heels for them, imagining all the things of them, and then like it coming to a point where you're like, that's just not the reality of what this thing is. And I kind of kept finding myself in situations like that where I'd like spot someone and be like, yeah, you're the one. And then I'd like have a thing with them and it just completely wouldn't be that. And then, but I just found
uh,
myself doing it again and again and again. But I think I was unavailable, so I was going for unavailable people, you know what I mean?
mm, that's what's up. That's good to know that, you had some good love on Valentine's Day, and you're all good. That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
And complete. I've got a couple of last questions for you here. It's called complete five sentences. So I'm going to say the line, and I just want you just to finish it. So
Okay.
Amy Winehouse comparisons, I think.
Are flattering. Flattering.
Ah,
Is that enough? Is that enough of a sentence?
yeah, that's fine.
No, I think they're
If you could do
flattering
a
because
voice of,
yeah.
sorry.
No, sorry, I kept going with like a long-winded answer, but I should probably just keep them short.
Are you a fan of hers though? What's because obviously that's when people hear you, I feel that that energy is drawn to you. Are you a fan of her yourself? Just a quick one on that.
Yeah, definitely of Amy Winehouse. Like I feel like those two albums, Frank and Back to Black, for me, like nothing has come close to them in terms of like the writing and like the sound and her voice since those. That's really how I feel about them. It wasn't really something that I got to grips with and understood until like my 20s, because I think when they first came out, I was probably like 10 or 11 years old. So I knew I liked her voice, but I didn't really understand what she was talking about, kind of thing.
All right. Thank you.
But
I don't want you to like, thank you for that answer. I did tell him I got to run in a few minutes. So if you could do a voiceover on TV, what would you say? Just one word, what would you say?
I'd say, I can be bold. No, I say, decorate me, adore me, baby. And then I would just like sort of just like have like a little bit of glitter like going down.
One album, one song.
One album, one song.
Real quick, come on, instant. One album, one song.
Roberta Flack, Hey, That's No Way to Say Goodbye. And I think the album's called Take One. I think it's called that. But it's actually a Leonard Cohen song, but it's one of my favorite like versions of a song kind of thing. Like I think Roberta Flack's voice is amazing.
Okay, we're nearly there. And the last two, what would you like people to take from your album, I Am Not Your Muse? One word. A feeling.
A sense of empowerment and like understanding that after facing like adversity, you come out the other side as like a stronger person, really. That's the idea.
Love that. And the last one, when lockdown is over, what's the first thing you're going to do?
I'm going to go to a party. I'm going to dance amongst loads of people and hopefully go on holiday.
And can you just do me a quick radio drop and say, this is Celeste and you're listening to Dan Blake on your radio?
Yeah. This is Celeste and you're listening to Dan Blake on your radio.
Thank you so much, Celeste.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Dan.
So I can share it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, me.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate you. Have a good rest of the day. Yeah?
Bye.